You've read the rules, you've created your strategies, you've put in the time, you've done the math. Now it's time to show us what you've got. Welcome to this week's episode of FMA Plus.
Welcome back for week 11 of FMA Plus. Tonight we've got Team 5113, the Combustible Lemons from Morristown, New Jersey, Team 2016, the Mighty Monkey Wrenches from Ewing, New Jersey, and Team 2607, the Fighting Robo Vikings from Warminster, Pennsylvania.
Awesome. So I'm super excited to talk to this team. One of my favorites, Team 5113, the Combustible Lemons out of Morristown, New Jersey. I'm here with Vinay, Maria, and Christian, and they are accompanied by their mentors, Mr. Wright and Ari. So with that, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Maria. I was co-president this year, and I've been the human player for the past 3 years. I've also been a part of the mechanical sub-team for 3 years.
Hey, I'm Vinay. I was software lead this year, and I've also been on the Combustible Lemons for 3 years.
Hi, I'm Christian, and I'm president of the Combustible Lemons this year. I've been a part of this team since freshman year as a member of the business operations team as well.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about the history of your team.
Absolutely. Our team was actually founded in 2013 by Mr. Wright and Mr. Bross at Morristown High School, and so that makes this our 7th season, and currently we have about 50 members.
Nice. Yeah, you guys have your ranks are growing. I'm super jealous of the headcount for sure. So Maria, do you have any fun origin stories behind your team's name?
Yeah, so we actually get that question a lot at competitions because I don't think there's any other team in FRC that has lemon in its name. So it's actually a reference to the video game Portal 2, in which one of the characters, Cave Johnson, gives this long rant about the saying, "When life gives you lemons, make lemonade." He gets really heated about it and says, like, "Don't make lemonade, take the lemons back, demand to see life's manager." And then he eventually gets to the point where he says, "I'm going to get my engineers to invent a combustible lemon that burns your house down."
I am a huge fan of the Portal series, and I remember seeing the Combustible Lemons become a team, and I was like, yes, that is the perfect reference. So I absolutely love it. I'd love to dive a little bit into your robot name as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So our first robot back 7 years ago was actually named Pretzel, just because nobody had a name and somebody had to put a name on the Rio, and somebody just happened to see a bag of pretzels lying around, and so the name kind of was born. And in a way, it became a weird tradition to give the robot a name that starts with the letter P. So we've got names like Pretzel, Pterodactyl, Polaris, and even Pascorpion. I don't know what we did that year. But this year, we actually kept the tradition alive, and our robot had a shooter, so we diligently named it Pew Pew, because that's the sound it makes when it shoots.
Cool. Yeah, that's an awesome origin to the robot name as well as the team name. You guys definitely didn't disappoint there. So I think I know where you're going to go with the answer to this next question. Can you guys tell us what's something unique about your team?
Yeah, imagery is something that's been really important to our team, that image and Combustible Lemons itself. And with each new game theme, our business operations sub-team actually comes up with and designs a custom lemon logo and robot pit to go along with it. For example, this year's theme was Infinite Recharge, sponsored by Star Wars. And so we created a Darth Vader lemon logo named Darth Lemonator with a futuristic city pit. And during the preseason and season, we 3D print and hand paint hundreds of pins with our custom logo to hand out at competitions, and they're always a big hit.
And in addition to that, every year we sew dozens of lemon plushies, which many of our team members wear around on their shoulders come competition season. Even our team's coach has his own special miniature lemon plushie, complete with glasses, and we have a combustible lime plushie that hangs around their pit as well. We also have a much larger lemon mascot that we have a team member or coach wear at outreach events. And because of our strong focus on imagery, we've won seven imagery awards over the past 7 years.
That lemon costume is one of my absolute favorite mascots. So,
Libby, can we just talk about Darth Lemonator?
Darth Lemonator, I love it.
Incredible.
5113 always nails imagery, and I absolutely love to see it. But I'd love to also talk about sort of how your year goes on the team. So let's talk about the preseason first. What do you guys do in the spot before kickoff in the calendar?
Obviously. So, the season is kind of perpetual. At least on the combustible lemons, we try to make it that way. And in software, we actually had a lot of work to do this season. That's because about half of our software sub team was brand new. So we had to really focus on transferring that knowledge and experience to newer teammates. But instead of taking this as a step back, we actually really rolled with it and made the decision along with that to change our code base from an iterative style to the more common command base. And that meant that everybody was really learning and figuring things out, including veterans. So that made it easy to learn and teach at the same time.
As for mechanical, we split into sub teams, with part of mechanical becoming CAD and the other part staying in the shop. So the CAD portion of the team learned about robot design and how to design on Fusion 360, which is our CAD software. And the other portion learned about tools and our new CNC machine. So really, it was about getting the freshmen up to speed and teaching a lot of new information as well to the older members.
But something that we really tried to do was actually teach about robotics itself. I mean, at least personally, when I first started, I was taught, how to code and some building, but I didn't really get what we were supposed to do. And so to address this, we had meetings where we'd literally sit down, watch old game animations, and just talk about what would work, what kind of designs would work, what they wanted to do. And we would watch really high level matches, like Einstein level. And it gave newer members the chance to really get what was going on and what we were going to have to do in that intense build season.
Nice. Yeah. So actually, I really like this next question. It's something that I think some teams have not, addressed so far on FMA Plus. We hear a lot about preseason, ramp up and preparation. So the question I have is, how did these preseason goals translate into the build season? How did they impact your build season come, post kickoff era?
I mean, really, I think by having these preseason meetings, it let us hit the ground running, especially with our software sub team. When we had software and when the build season came, we had multiple people writing teleop code, and we were able to use GitHub so people could learn from each other and multiple people could write effective teleop code at the same time. And since we actually had a test bot that was reasonably similar to our actual drivetrain, as a sub team, we could all work together to figure out different problems, including vision tracking, which is a main goal for us.
As for mechanical, having these preseason meetings where I got to learn about CAD and work with our new CNC machine allowed us to be a lot more ambitious this year with our robot design. You can really see the big difference the CNC machine made in the way we were able to build a custom chassis and gearboxes, as well as in the way we built our shooter. Additionally, having CAD as another tool we could use allowed us to go from concept design to prototype to the real thing with relative ease, so we were able to jump right into prototyping. Having these preseason meetings really allowed us to learn a lot more than we were normally able to in the past and make a design that was completely unique from our past years.
And really by having those quote unquote design meetings, we noticed that right after kickoff, when everybody's talking about what they want to do and how they want to do it, we realized that everybody could really effectively contribute to that discussion. In fact, our intake, for example, was an idea that was proposed by a newer member. And it really felt like in those post-kickoff meetings, it felt like we had a lot more diversity in who proposed ideas. Younger teammates weren't shy at all. They had a lot to say because they felt more comfortable saying it and they felt more comfortable knowing it.
Vinay, I think that's a really good point. When you have a focus on a quality preseason education, you end up with students who are more empowered in their first season and in their future seasons to be able to contribute. I love that you guys noticed that, and I hope that inspires you to keep making your preseason education even more awesome for new team members. As we move into the official Infinite Recharge season, what did you guys want to accomplish with your robot this year?
So like with every other year, we started with a priority list. So like always, our number one priority was driving. We knew that we needed a solid drivetrain, so we ended up using tank drive for simplicity with a custom chassis, which ended up working very well. Our next priorities were intake, indexing, then shooting in that order. That's because shooting is great and all, but without the ability to actually get the power cells, we knew that shooting was useless. So for intake, we made it a touch it and own it system that fed to the shooter with a belt indexer. So the intake used a mix of compliant, Omni, and Mechanism wheels that would sort the power cells into a single file that would feed into our indexer. Our shooter was a hooded shooter with 2 Falcons attached that were geared for speed. We also knew that we wanted to be able to climb since it was so valuable point-wise, so we used a telescoping arm that expanded with springs and had a few successful climbs during our competition. Lastly, we also know that we wanted to be a short robot to be able to get under the trench and to stay in the protected zones as much as we could. So our whole robot came together at like 28 by 32 inches and around 105 to 110 pounds.
And in software, we had a couple of goals that we really wanted to accomplish this season. First, we really wanted to make sure that we had effective teleop code. And what that means is we want to make sure that the driver could know what he was doing and get it done as fast as he could. And that meant everything from driving to ball acquisition to indexing to shooting, all of which we could do with that test bot that I mentioned. And being able to do this quickly really gave us the ability to focus on that nitty gritty and hopefully take our robot to the next level, specifically with vision and auton. And a goal that we really had this year was to make our limelight track the target. And it would make it easier and faster for the driver to line up and shoot power cells. And another main goal that we had was to use Pathweaver and motion profiling to set autonomous routines that we could use to score more points in that first crucial 15 seconds. And even though we didn't have this by week one, our first competition, we did have a backup hard-coded autonomous that did work out for us.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like you guys had a well put together robot. I'm also super jealous of the 105 pound overall weight. It's nice to have a little bit of breathing room to add upgrades or make modifications for sure. So Maria, what's the one thing your team is most proud of when it comes to this season?
Oh, so we're definitely proud of our performance at Hepburn Horsham this year, which was our first and only competition. So we had some difficulties in the beginning due to software and mechanical issues, but we fixed what we could and we improvised the rest. So by the end of the regular matches, I think we really found our stride. And although we weren't picked during the line selections, we were the first substitute robot. So we got to go in for a Femtech Fatale during the semifinals. And I think everything really came together then. We played incredible defense and our lines played really well. We reached the finals, and although we didn't win, we were more than happy with our success. And I'm sure the rest of the team is very proud of how we pulled together and how everything worked out.
So let's dive a little bit into outreach. What kind of outreach events does your team do?
Yeah, outreach and educating our community about STEM, especially children, is something the Combustible Lemons have always been pretty passionate about. From hosting STEM meetings with Girl Scouts to driving a robot in our town's holiday parades, we're always looking for ways to engage and educate our community. One of the biggest outreach fundraisers and events that we do is Lego Night, which occurs in late February or March. It's been an annual event for kids in grades K through 6 since 2015, in which we create a theme such as Shipwrecked or Jungle Adventure and challenge them to come up with solutions to different problems using Legos and their creativity. We found that kids really enjoy the hands-on activities, and each year we have about 200 participants. In addition to getting children to think outside the box and about the challenges, we show off the current season's robot and give them a chance to drive it around, which is a pretty big hit. We often invite our sister teams 2729 Storm and 1647 the Iron Devils to talk about their teams as well. By showing them a little bit about what it's like to be on an FRC robotics team, we hope to encourage and inspire the next generation.
And just with FIRST itself, we've actually worked a lot with FLL and FLL junior teams in our area. In fact, we helped host an FLL qualifier just this year with 15 FLL teams and 10 FLL junior teams. And in fact, all three of us here were from the FLL team at our local middle school, a team that some Lemon alums had started years ago.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's cool to see a team like 5113 is, dare I say, reaping the fruits of their labor by having a feeder program that is now heavily impacting the success of their primary organization. Had to sneak that one in there. Cool. So next question. So what has your team been up to since the FRC competition season was cut short due to COVID-19?
We've definitely been up to a lot since then. Ever since the outbreak of the virus and the unfortunate suspension of the competition season, we were looking at ways that we could use the skills we've learned in robotics to proactively help the community in these tough times. We saw groups who were creating these 3D printed face shields, and we were instantly looking for how we could do that. With the help of some passionate mentors and parents, FRC Against COVID-19 was born. We started this project with our sister teams Storm and Iron Devils, along with Bert, and have been working the past couple of months to pump out 3D printed face shields. We have only just recently wound down production since personal protective equipment is becoming more available, but we were able to produce over 6,000 shields and give them out to various healthcare facilities and groups such as Virtua, the Medical Reserve Corps, Care One, the Morristown Police Department, and Rowan University. It's the least we can do to help out the frontline workers who risk their lives every day to help others.
I love hearing about the initiatives that different FRC teams have in this global pandemic insanity, and certainly appreciate the work you guys have done. Now, are there any other pieces about your team, any other stories, anything else you'd like to tell us about 5113?
Yeah, finally, we'd like to give a huge thanks to all of our generous sponsors, including Lockheed Martin, Comcast, OPEX, among many others, because they're really the reason we are able to operate smoothly each season.
Cool. Yeah. Christian, let me ask one last thing. If we want to learn more about 5113, the combustible lemons, where can we go to learn more?
You can keep up with what we're doing and follow us on our social medias on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, YouTube, and Twitter at FRC5113.
First Mid-Atlantic is grateful for its sponsors. We are fortunate to have Mr. Richardson representing NJM Insurance on this episode. Jeffrey J. Richardson is the supervisor of corporate giving at NJM Insurance Group. At NJM, Jeff oversees volunteer and community engagement activities, charitable collections, and events participation. Jeff is a graduate of the College of New Jersey, where he majored in international studies.
Hello, I'm Jeff Richardson, Corporate Giving Supervisor at NJM Insurance Group. NJM is a leading property casualty insurance company in the Mid-Atlantic region, serving policyholders since its founding in 1913. One of our core values is to support the communities that we are privileged to serve. We do this in several ways: direct financial support to charitable organizations, sponsorship of events and programs, community service projects, employee volunteerism, and consumer safety programs, including our award-winning Teen Driver Safety Program. One of the many organizations that we are pleased to support is First Mid-Atlantic Robotics. First Mid-Atlantic provides a unique opportunity for you as students to explore and develop your passion, ingenuity, and creativity for STEM. Through the organization's broad resources and programs, you can build innovative and critical thinking skills and work in teams to achieve a common goal. We are pleased to stand by this mission to spur the next generation of thought-driven leaders. We value the importance of a STEM education and know that it will provide you with a foundation for future career success. In a recent Bureau of Labor Statistics report, employment in STEM-related occupations is expected to increase by 9% in the 10-year period ending in 2028, with the median annual wage exceeding $86,000. This means that you will have great earnings potential if you decide to continue in this field. At NJM, we employ more than 300 workers in our information technology department. Their roles vary and consist of software developers, network engineers, help desk technicians, information security experts, and so many more. The current health crisis has dramatically increased the dependency and demand on our IT staff, as roughly 95% of our entire workforce is participating in remote work. Our technology infrastructure and capabilities have certainly been put to the test during this unprecedented situation. There are other departments at NJM that are heavily reliant upon STEM as part of their work processes. These include, but are not limited to, engineering and loss prevention, statistical, actuarial, imaging, and our medical services administration. These departments use different technologies, programs, hardwares, and softwares on a daily basis to ensure that our business needs at the organization are met. They and other departments at NJM have adapted to meet the challenges and clear the obstacles presented by the current situation. We understand the challenges that you must be facing. Although this year's in-person robotics events are canceled, we commend your continued commitment to learning about STEM and enhancing your skills and competencies in this subject. We are happy to be able to contribute to this virtual programming. We know that you will continue to excel and use your creative passion and poise to achieve high levels of success both academically and professionally. We will be rooting for you. Thank you.
Awesome. So we're here with Team 2016, the Mighty Monkey Wrenches out of Ewing, New Jersey. I'm here with team representatives Nick, Michael, and Michelle, and they're accompanied by their mentor, Ms. Hutchinson. So with that, Michelle, I'll give it off to you for introductions.
Hi, I am Michelle, a senior at Ewing High School, and I've been on the team for 4 years.
Hi, I'm Nick. I've been on the team for 4 years now. I'm the technical manager and the head 3D modeler.
Hello, my name is Michael. I've been on the team for 3 years. I'm the team captain and lead programming.
It's certainly nice to meet you all. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Team 2016?
Our team is located in Ewing, New Jersey. Our shop is based out of New Jersey School for the Deaf. This year's team includes 25 students and 16 mentors.
That's awesome. Yeah, you guys have a nice group. I like the ratio of mentor to student too. You guys have a great organization, as we all know. So Michelle, let's talk a little bit more about community impact. What kind of impact does your team have on the community?
Well, we attend most of the outreach events around our community, including National Night Out, Community Fest, and many more. These events include robot demonstrations and promoting all FIRST programs. Within the school, we promote our team at our home football games and pep rallies by utilizing our t-shirt launcher with shirts provided by the school. In the realm of FIRST, we host an FLL practice and qualifying event. Our main community service work is with Lions Club International Eyeglass Recycling Center, where we sort and clean eyeglasses. We have also invited other students outside the robotics team to volunteer their time.
That's really cool to hear. I always love getting a little bit of a look into what teams do with their time outside of the robot. Now, of course, in FMA Plus, we're here to feature teams and their stories, so I'd love to hear what makes your team different.
Our team's image. This year, we embraced the Star Wars theme. One of the things we did was put signs on our robot cart. One said Mighty Monkey Wrenches in the Star Wars font. The other had our slogan, Heavy Metal Monkey Business, in the Star Wars language. We also created a droid that is an imitation of this year's robot, and a Jedi monkey that is a recreation of our mascot. The Star Wars theme was also incorporated into our team picture, which was done with a Lego display. At competitions, we would display the people with a corresponding bio describing who they represent and their role on the team. Another thing that makes our team different is that we compete in an out-of-district regional every year. During our visit, we do something unique to the area. This year, we got the opportunity before the season was canceled to go to Festival de Robotique Sherbrooke Regional. We enjoyed a day in Montreal seeing the Science Center and touring the underground city.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, you guys are very, very unique amongst FMA for a couple of reasons related to competition, right? You guys have competed. A lot of us have not. You've competed outside of the district. So let's talk a little bit about your experience at competition. How did your team perform up in Montreal?
Well, one thing that was unique to this competition is that the first language spoken was French. It really taught us the importance of communication. But with the performance, we ranked 12th at the end of qualification matches, and we made it to semifinals as the 6th-seeded alliance. We also earned the Entrepreneurship Award.
Congrats. Yeah, I've been to the Montreal event before, and it's definitely really unique and different to see all of the first signage primarily in French and then secondarily in English because of the language laws. I found it really interesting to see, and then also very like surreal almost. You're like, I recognize this, but it's not the same thing. So let's talk a little bit about your season, specifically in the design process. What is 2016 design process like? How do you go from watching the kickoff video to driving a functioning robot on that carpet in Montreal?
I can take this one. I guess I helped lead it, didn't I? Every year, after watching the reveal video, we begin our analysis at SysTech, one of our sponsors. First, we'll rewatch the reveal a few times and go through the basic rules as a team so everyone understands how to play the game. Meanwhile, people begin listing potential strategies on Post-it notes, which we collect on big sheets of paper labeled Auto, Teleop, Endgame, etc., to look at later. Next, we break into smaller groups, one group of gamers and 3 to 4 groups of lawyers. The lawyer's task is to work intimately with the rules, making a scoring matrix and looking for non-obvious ways to get an advantage, or as we like to say, loopholes and chokeholds. The gamer's job is to play mock matches, with each student acting like a different kind of robot, trying to see how effective certain strategies are and how the robots interact with each other. With this two-pronged approach, we get both a theoretical and a practical understanding of the rules, and it helps keep everyone occupied. We then reconvene and each group presents their findings, and after additional discussion, we're done for the day. Everyone's very tired, so we send the team home to rest and keep making strategy post-its. The next day, we get together back at the shop to work out what we want the robot to do. We let anyone add final ideas to the post-it boards and then sort everything recorded into a table listing different ways for a robot to function on the field. We talk over the pros and cons of each and then bring it to a vote to decide on a preliminary target strategy. Almost every year that we've tried to make our robot do everything in the game, we've been a jack of all trades, master of none. And so this process forces us to pick things not to strive for, which helps us narrow our focus and ultimately design a more successful robot. This year, for an overarching strategy, we chose to be a support bot with fast, efficient scoring, a solid autonomous, and an awesome, highly desirable hang. With this in mind, we initially decided to fit under the trench, score in the lower power ports, climb during the end game, store 5 balls, and pick up from the floor. Each of these has strong reasons behind them, be it precedents of success from past years or ideas of possible alliance synergy. One thing that's really important, yet hard to do at this stage, is focus on strategies, the what, and not the mechanisms, the how. It's important to decide on strategies first, because we have to design mechanisms to fulfill some purpose. And it can be incredibly inefficient to talk about, say, scissor lifts and elevators before we even know if you want to climb.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool to learn again about how teams formulate their strategies. So now you've explained how you come up with the objectives. I'm curious how you formulate the actual mechanisms, how you start designing the portions of the robot that are going to accomplish these objectives.
So the how comes the next day, where we break into groups again to brainstorm mechanisms for each element of our strategy. And then we use another table to list our ideas. If anyone has a solid, complete idea for a robot, they draw a line connecting the mechanisms they think would work well together. Once we've talked through multiple hypothetical robots, we bring it to another vote, and the ideas we decide on go into prototyping over the following weeks. Designing and working through design iterations goes like you'd expect, but one thing I'd like to highlight is our team's reliance on 3D modeling. It helps us plan out complicated mechanisms and make sure we have a space for everything in the robot, and it lets us create detailed instructions for fabricating parts, especially for milling and 3D printing. This year, we also created a more comprehensive model of the full robot to show off at competitions and to help us explain to others how it all works.
That's awesome. Thank you. So let's talk about the robot. Let's do a deep dive on it, right? We'll start from the ground up, of course, with your drivetrain.
Like Nick said, this year we recognize the importance of defense and the dangers of traversing the rendezvous point. Because of this, we chose to create a 6-wheel tank-style drivetrain with 6-inch Andy Mark aluminum wheels with blue nitrile tread, which worked well for us last year. Stepping up their size from what we have done in the past meant it would be easier to get over the bars, and they provided a high amount of traction without wearing out like the Colsons we used in the past, making them perfect for defense. In keeping with our motor selection for the rest of the robot, 4 of the new Falcon 500 motors powered our wheels. They paired well with our traction wheels, providing more torque than the 6-inch setups we used in the previous 2 seasons. Along with the wheels, our machining students fabricated 4 side plates and numerous 80-20 cross members. The side plates have holes drilled every inch to allow for easy attachment of mechanisms.
Definitely sounds like a robust drivetrain, tried and true, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Sometimes you know it works, and that puts you ahead of the game in terms of the timeline of build season when you're designing and fabricating. So that's cool. Let's talk a little bit about power cell manipulation. How do you guys manipulate the power cells or manipulate the game piece during the game?
So our team uses 2 methods to intake power cells, one for picking up off the floor and another for collecting from the human player station. To pick up from the human player station, we just roll our shooter wheels in reverse. For our floor pickup, we use an over-the-bumper design, though. The design has 2 sets of rollers on a pivot so that we can protect it when playing defense and traveling throughout the field. The bottom intake roller has compliant wheels along a bar that pull the power cells up from the floor and over our bumper, and then into our second stage. The second stage has surgical tubing, which smacks the power cells into our magazine system, which is a 1-stage conveyor belt made of 5 flat polycord belts and 3D printed spindles that move the power cells from our intake to our shooter. A unique feature about our intake and manipulator system is that we don't have to collect power cells in a single line to control them. We decided very early on that we wanted to be a fast low goal bot, and by doing this, we came up with a very specific design for our shooter mechanism. Our shooter is powered by 2 separate Falcon motors, one for a top row of compliant wheels and a second for the other. By having 2 independent motors, we are able to change the speed of each motor separately. This allows us to get a better spin on the power cells, increasing our probability of shooting more accurately. This makes our method very simple and very efficient. After we built our first prototype of our shooter mechanism, we realized that with our design, we can still shoot the high goal with the proper alignment. Because of this, we decided to use this feature in auto. We used human player alignment before each match so that we could shoot high goal during the auto time. This is a very good thing for our bot because we were able to score a lot of points during auto in our one competition.
Very cool. I love the idea of sort of the versatility in a low goal bot that can also shoot high. Even though it's not necessarily your highest priority, being able to do it is still useful and has strategic depth. What about endgame? Do you guys, what is your you said you wanted a robust climb. So what does your team do for that endgame?
So our robot has many features that we are very proud of and are very unique, but I believe that our climb mechanism was our greatest accomplishment this season. Through our design process, we knew we wanted to climb and we wanted to be good at it, but the real question was how. We threw up a lot of different ideas and our final product was very successful. Our final design involved dual Falcon-driven lead screws, which together have the capability to pull over 300 pounds. This gives us the ability to lift our robot with ease. The lead screw arms are connected by a crossbar and our homemade gearboxes that are also powered by a Falcon motor. Along with this, we had set positions programmed into our climb so that we could complete various tasks using compliant wheels. At the end of the lead screw arms, we had the 2 compliant wheels powered by a single Falcon motor. One wheel was used as a hook to grab onto the bar and stabilize it so our alliance could climb up without it rocking. We then pulled ourselves up and drove along the bar so that we could balance our alliance. The second wheel is used to spin the color wheel. We use a color sensor to control our rotations. Unfortunately, we were not able to use this during our one competition. We also had a third location so that we could travel under the trench. We had a very rocky start though in Sherbrooke. We even considered immobilizing our arms with duct tape. But we were able to add a polycarb stop so our arms would not fall down as we climbed. With our new additions and competition experience, we were able to climb consistently and successfully by the end of Sherbrooke, which made our robot Margaret the queen of endgame.
Very cool. Yeah. Props to the robot name too. I have to comment on that. Robot being named Margaret is super unique and I love everything about it. So you brought up Sherbrooke towards the end of that last portion. Let me ask you, Nick, based on, how things went at the Montreal competition, what kind of adjustments or improvements would you guys make?
So yeah, as you all mentioned, we do have a unique perspective having actually competed. So with our experience from Canada, there's a couple of things we'd certainly do. We'd fix all our dented wheels. We'd add some plastic guards under the bumpers to protect the wheels. We'd work on pivoting flaps to keep our pickup and shooter from losing balls. We'd improve the mechanisms that lock our climb upright and attach it to the bar. And we find a more effective camera vision system. Since we'll be repeating the season next year, we aim to get much more practice driving our robot, especially with scoring and climbing.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things about sort of replaying Infinite Recharge or replaying it with a twist that I'm really curious to see is we always say, oh, it'd be so much better if we had more driver practice, but what happens when that's at the scale of a year? I'm pretty interested to see how that turns out for us all. Does 2016 have any special plans for the future?
Indeed, we do. With the season repeating, we have the opportunity to spend more time on our new project, FarmBot. FarmBot is a framework built on top of a garden with an attachment that will monitor and maintain it. The intention of FarmBot is to build more at other local gardens and beyond to maximize the benefits of this new technology. For our school, the plan is to construct 2 raised garden beds in the courtyard, add FarmBot to one, and program through a successful growing season. The project will both expand and test our programming and fabrication skills.
That's awesome. Yeah. Interestingly relevant too, considering there's been an uptick in home gardening and things like that, given the pandemic situation we're in right now. So that's a very interesting project. Really excited to hear about that. Final question. Any last thoughts or comments before we close out?
Team 2016 would like to thank Team 293 Spike for all their help during the season. We'd also like to thank our parent organization, Tech Pro, the mentors, and of course the students for making the most of this season. And a big thank you to all of our generous sponsors. Also, please follow us on social media to get updates about our team and to reach out.
Well, thank you so much, Team 2016, the Mighty Monkey Wrenches out of UA, New Jersey. Have a great night. We appreciate you coming on this evening.
Awesome. So we're here with Team 2607, the Fighting Robo Vikings out of Warminster, Pennsylvania. With that, Lily, I'm going to hand it off to you. Tell us a little bit more about 2607.
Hello, we're Team 2607, the Fighting Robo Vikings. We're a 12-year veteran team from Archbishop Wood High School in Warminster, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Today, we want to talk a little bit about our outreach efforts, team organization and management structure, 2020 design and prototyping processes, our 2020 robot, new controls innovations for our team, our experience and results in Happer Horsham competition, and our lessons learned from this season. We hope you enjoy our presentation, and we look forward to sharing in Discord, Facebook, and on Instagram as we all work through this FMA COVID-19 experience together.
I love it. I appreciate the pre-segment outline. So Jack, let's get started by talking about your outreach and your first LEGO League involvement.
We are proud to have been a part of a unique service project for our community. Our students and mentors worked on the design and implementation of a bus shelter for Wood students and the other people of the community who commute via SEPTA buses. Our team got together with the STEM program director and some of his students in the architecture class and organized a fundraising event in the school's parking lots. We ran our Wheels at Wood car and craft show for 3 years to help raise funds for the shelter. It was finished last summer, and in November, our team was invited to the opening and blessing ceremony. Although the season has ended and we continue to be stifled by quarantine, we are continuing our outreach efforts by teaming with STEM Fabrication Lab at our County Intermediate Unit and Bucks County Community College to fabricate and supply face shields and face mask clips to medical facilities. In our first week of operation, we contributed over 200 face shields to the project, which supports emergency squads, hospitals, and COVID-19 testing teams in Sewell, New Jersey. Some of our other outreach projects are, but not limited to, our annual Girls in STEM Day, our FLL qualifier tournament we host each year, and our annual St. John's Hospice Christmas care packages. We are extremely proud of each outreach project and look forward to them each year.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's cool to see the variety of different outreach projects that you guys have sunk your teeth into, and I definitely commend you guys for jumping into action to help with the PPE situation, in response to the pandemic. Justin, let's learn a little bit more about team organization and maybe your motto and your vision.
Yeah, so the way that we organize our team is out of the policies and procedures. And in it, we really make sure everyone knows to follow our guiding principles and ground our activities and our vision and our mission statement. Our motto is purveyors of gracious professionalism, and we're a team driven by students, supported by our adult servant leaders. We're grounded in our religious faith and our belief that the youth of today must be nurtured as the leadership of tomorrow. Our vision is to build a world where science and technology are respected and encouraged, and where anyone can aspire to achieve excellence in these fields. We hope to achieve this through our mission by empowering youth in our own school community and other communities with both the skill and passion to pursue STEM projects now and in their futures.
That's awesome. I love to hear the background around a team and what their mission statement is, because we've all got a slightly different take on how to run an FRC team. So speaking of team management, Justin, I hear you're the person to ask about that as well.
Yeah, so just this year, in an effort to get students even more involved in leadership and being engaging with the team, the most experienced students on the team developed a new organizational model. Our leadership team, anointed as the Round Table, consists of 4 seniors and 4 juniors. This new table established new processes and procedures where the students were completely responsible for the analysis, prototyping, designing, and scheduling of all of the subsystems of this year's competition robot. It has gotten more students involved in making decisions and active leadership. Although our season was cut short by this pandemic, though, our roundtable has continued to meet weekly on Zoom to plan team activities pre, during, and post-quarantine, as well as evaluating the first year's performance, seeing if we should continue it for next year.
Yeah, that's a great way to build your institutional knowledge, right? You're lending, or you're leaning on your more experienced students now to help bear the load of being leaders on the team, instead of leaving all of that to your mentors, which is a great developmental tool for your older students as they move into their next phases as well. Lily, let's talk 2020 kickoff.
So this year, just before kickoff, we held a seminar for the entire team on the engineering design process and some of the techniques and tools that we could use. To prioritize robot requirements, we utilized the Moscow method. It stands for must, should, could, and won't. And we discuss and place all of the standards for our robot into one of those categories so that we can decide what to focus on during build season. We also use a weighted options table where we can give point values to each prototype based on specific qualities that we saw as necessary to help select prototypes among possible solutions that would fill the criteria that we set for our robot. And for team communications, we use Slack, but new this year, we introduced the use of Trello for project management and scheduling. After the game reveal, our team breaks up into several subgroups, and each subgroup has a mix of members with different levels of experience, also from different areas of expertise, such as mechanical, electrical, and controls. And then a student lead takes each subgroup with guidance from a mentor. We have one strategy subgroup that studies the game manual in its entirety and develops the requirements for each of the other design subgroups. For example, if we want to be able to cross the field in this many seconds, that's a requirement, and we would tell the drive base group to meet that requirement. This year, we also started with subgroups in drive base, power cell handling, control panel scoring, and climbing. The power cell handling subgroup eventually further divided into 4 groups dedicated to pickup, hopper, indexer, and shooter designs. Finally, we also had a subgroup dedicated to building the field elements for a practice field. Each design subgroup studied and prototyped various solutions and then presented their results to the strategy subteam, who decided to use a weighted options table to help decide the mechanisms that would be on the final robot.
That's awesome. I love the idea of determining what's most important and what sort of your options are. And I'm certainly interested in looking up that Moscow method because that looks pretty cool. It was a new acronym I'd never heard before, so thank you. Jacob, let's jump into an overview of the robot.
Yes. So let's start with our power cell manipulation system. So first of all, the power cell is picked up by the intake, which consists of a pneumatically actuated arm with Lexan tubes. When extended, the tubes come in contact with the ball and are pulled into the bot. Next, the power cell falls into the hopper, which is simply a funnel. It is then picked up by the indexer. And the indexer consists of 2 loose belts powered by 1 motor so that each belt runs the same speed. The ball travels up the indexer and into the shooter. Supporting all our mechanisms is our drive base. The drive base is a belt-driven 6-wheeled drivetrain powered by 2 Falcon 500s. We have 2 speeds, low gear and a high gear for defense and maneuverability. Our control panel manipulator is a simple mechanism. It consists of a small arm with a motor and a wheel on the end, in addition to a color sensor. Our goal for the shooter was to be able to consistently get fuel cells into the inner and outer goals of the power port. Our final shooter design used a 4-inch by 2-inch Fairline wheel, which acted as our flywheel. This was sandwiched in between 2 Andy Mark white high traction 6-inch wheels, driven by a single Neo. The hood is made of bent Lexan adjusted perfectly to our ideal shooting positions, which were the initiation line and the trench. Our largest problem we did not consider while designing the shooter was how vibrations from the shooter affected our electronics. The electronics were mounted on the side of the indexer, which supported the shooter. However, once the electronics were mounted, we received many timeout messages in code, which would disable our robot. We suspected the vibrations were the cause, but we did not have much time after the competition to troubleshoot the problem. Next time, we would consider more carefully the placement of our electronics, keeping in mind vibrations from other mechanisms. The goal for the climber was to efficiently lift our bot and be able to move along the bar while climbing. We were indeed able to accomplish just that. I think the most unique addition was our method of moving across the bar. We machined a makeshift hook out of 2x2 extruded aluminum tubing with a modified Coulson wheel. We milled the wheel so that it would be indented to the shape of the bar. This was indeed effective in aligning our robot to the bar, and the rubber gave us enough traction to ascend it. The hook is mounted on an arm which is pneumatically actuated by 2 pistons to give us the height we need to grab onto the bar. To lift ourselves up, the hook is attached to a winch connected to our frame. And to keep ourselves from slipping, we added a pneumatic brake to lock the winch.
Nice. Yeah, very thorough overview of the robot there. I appreciate that you guys have addressed all the game challenges in detail, which is great. Colin, let's talk a little bit about the 2607 innovations in controls.
Well, last season, the controls team utilized and became experienced in using PIDs for velocity and position control in several of our robot mechanisms. This year, the team set as a priority the implementation of a vision tracking system. Our system uses 2 Javois cameras with LED light rings, as we had previous experience with them, and they were a cost-effective solution. We used GRIP to develop the vision pipelines and then transferred the pipeline to the Javois cameras. One camera is used to detect the power port vision target. Data returned to the RoboRio is used to help line up the robot with the power port, increasing scoring accuracy. The second camera is used to detect power cells on the floor for collection during the autonomous period. The vision system is used in conjunction with a motion control system where our robot autonomously follows trajectories that we generate from a tool that is based on Pathfinder. Using this system, we are able to obtain smooth and consistent results. Although our autonomous system using vision and trajectory following was not fully operational during our first competition, we were able to work out all the bugs in the following week and hope to be able to show it off during next year's game.
That's awesome. One of the things that you guys have noted a couple of times so far is, that you got to compete at Hatboro and you've thought about iterations for future events and for our future game. So Justin, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your Hatboro experience, your competition, robot performance, anything like that.
Yeah, so Hatboro was absolutely wonderful. So out of 36 teams that competed, just as an overview, we ended up placing 3rd in qualifiers, and our alliance ended up making it all the way to the finals. First things first, we had great team spirit at this event. We really are a team which greatly values team spirit, and even when we lost matches, we still made the drive team hear our support. Maraid, one of our art and spirit members, made a poster of all of the drive team as these Star Wars characters. There should be a picture of it. And one of our parents made pixelated versions of the drive team. We're really thankful for the support that we have from the team, students, and parents. And without them, we really couldn't have taken home the FMA Spirit Award, our first FMA Spirit Award. Our drive team itself had a great showing. They showed a lot of grit and perseverance, and we finished the competition as finalists. A lot of our younger students also in the stands showed great promise. Plus, our scouting was as strong as ever during this competition. We used MIT App Inventor, an app that we developed on Android. The scouting app allowed our team to record key data about each individual team at the competition and the performance during qualification matches. The data that was then gathered from each tablet using Bluetooth and processed and visualized using Tableau, running on a PC. This data allowed us to develop strategy for each of our qualification matches and helped us to develop a pick list for line selection. We're also happy to say that our team was very quick on its feet. In our first practice match, our bot would not cooperate. But by the time that our qualification matches had come around, the bot was already back to running. Although it was our first competition of the season, our entire team had a strong performance, and we are proud of what our team was able to accomplish.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like you guys had a great experience at Hatboro. Jack, let's move into a more granular level on Hatboro. Can you tell us a little bit about the matches?
So our competition didn't come without a few difficulties. In one of our matches, the wires on our batteries came uncrimped, and we later discovered most of our batteries weren't crimped correctly. And then in another match, our laptop shut down and gave us the blue screen of death right before our match started. Fortunately, we had a backup computer that we could get out quickly. We were the captain of the third alliance at Haber Horsham, as Justin said, and we worked with 3314 Mechanical Mustangs, 709 Femtech Fadal, and 5113 Combustible Lemons. During the semifinals, we had to sub out 709 for 5113 because of mechanical issues. Then, while trying to play defense in our last semifinal match on 1640, the teeth on 5113's drive gears were sheared. This caused half of their drive base to be unmovable. We had already subbed out 709, so we couldn't get back up. There was not enough time during the timeout to put another gear in. Due to quick thinking from mentors and other team members, they wrapped the broken drive gear in electrical tape, so there would be a small amount of catch to move that side of the drive base. During our finals match, the Lemons got to the rendezvous to climb and secured 15 points for our alliance without a fully working drive base. They were down 2 working bots out of 4, but we still played and competed as hard as we could. Through this experience, we learned a lot about how to continue working during tough situations and how important creative problem solving is. We ended the competition as finalists, and we couldn't have done it without our fantastic alliance partners 3314, 709, and 5113.
I always love those sort of like pit stories during playoffs of like, oh yeah, we put tape around the gear. It's the only way to get on the field. And you got to do what you got to do.
Finally, Justin and Lily, do you guys have anything else about 2607 as an organization and a team that we should be aware of or that we should know?
We would just like to thank some of our sponsors, Lockheed Martin, Mrs. Westhoff, Bristol Myers Squibb Foundation, Bowling for ALD and the Mayan family, Ravensclaw Golf Course, and so many more. We'd also like to thank Team 103 for the use of their facilities, Team 7414 for coming and spending kickoff with us, and again, all of our alliance members from Happer Horsham, Team 3314, 709, and 5113. And last but not least, we want to thank the FMA Plus crew for all their hard work in this amazing project.
Well, you're very welcome. We're happy to do this. And we have a lot of fun learning from all of you guys. So if I want to learn more about the Fighting Robo Vikings, where can I find you guys online?
So we have a website, www.robovikings.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, FRC Team 2607.
Awesome. Well, yeah, don't leave just yet. We have a live Q&A coming up right after this. See you all in a moment.
right, we are back. Jeff, welcome on in for our live Q&A segment. Who do we have tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're here with Lily, Colin, Jack, Jacob, and Justin, and their mentor, Mr. G from Team 2607, who we heard from a little bit ago. So we're going to jump into some questions. Remember, everybody who's watching at home, to keep posting your questions in chat, as we'll be picking out more during this session itself. So with that, Libby, why don't you go ahead and throw the first question out there?
Yeah, let's do it. So for Team 2607, the Fighting Robo Vikings, you've made it to the finals at least once per season, dating all the way back to 2013. What makes 2607 so consistent? And what what is it going to take to break the 4 finals losing streak?
I think for our team, we have a really strong legacy of mentors who have consistently been preparing students every year to be so consistent and be ready to make finals every year. And yeah, last season we had a finals curse, you could call it. We made finals at almost all of our competitions. And yeah, we're still on that finals streak.
I was gonna say, make some close friends with our buddies on 1403. They've also had a we called it the always the bridesmaid, never the bride streak until they got their first event win. So you have a way out of it, and I do think there's a level of consistency in that I think you guys have already identified, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think make no mistake too, while they are dealing with a certain level of challenge on, punching the ticket home through the finals, 2607 is consistently one of those high performers everybody's watching out for. I know our team is, at least. Cool. So next question up, a little bit simpler. What is your robot's name? And I might add on to that. Maybe you guys can elaborate a little bit further on where the name came from.
So our robot's name is Doreen. The exact reason for that is we decided to name it after one of the parents of one of our seniors. Our captain's mom, we decided to name it after her. No real particular reason why, it was just something we kind of came up with on the spot. And we had like a voting poll in order to see, and that was just what ended up winning out.
I like it. I mean, parents are such an integral part of teams. It's nice to sort of give that little nod. I love it. And I always love hearing stories about team names and why. Good call, Jeff, on adding that in. It's a little piece of team personality that you don't normally see. So thank you. And Gigi Doreen. So you mentioned in your recap of the HAPRO event that you had some electrical issues due to shooter vibrations. Is this an area you want to fix for future competitions? And if so, what methods are you looking at to fix it?
Yeah, I think definitely we're going to try to fix that problem. I think it gave us a big problem during build season while testing, and also it wasn't fully fixed during the competition. So I think our main priority is to focus on what makes the most, since we thought it was the vibrations that made the most problems, we would focus on what the mechanism that makes our the most vibrations, the most movement, and we would focus on placing our electronics strategically with that in mind, instead of just slapping it on to the thing that has the most space, because that was also a big problem we had.
Yeah, makes sense. The interesting thing about that kind of a problem too, given the fact that we're replaying this game to some degree in 2020, is that that's a great opportunity there to do some trial and some guess and check type work, where you can try a couple different solutions and see which one yields the best results, or maybe which combination of solutions yields the best results. So that's awesome. Cool. So next question up is, what processes did you use for milling the Coulson wheel on your climber hook? And what were some of the challenges of milling rubber?
I don't know if any of us were actually there for that process, but I know that it took a couple iterations to figure out how to do it really well. If you contact us on our Instagram, I think we can actually get you a more solid answer. But it definitely took a couple iterations to get that Coulson wheel right and get it to the right dimension so that it would work well on the switch.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it's, milling anything is obviously a tricky process, but then to just say like, oh yeah, we're just going to take a Coulson wheel and mess with that. So appreciate it. And also excellent plug for the Instagram to get a better answer on that one more specifically. So going to competition experience, which it seems like you guys can certainly speak to, your HAPRO Playoff Alliance was one of the few that tried to triple hang. So, Lily, I know you said you coach, but I think there's also maybe some other Drive team members here. How much coordination was involved in pulling off those hangs every match, and how much did you value that ability during Alliance selection?
For alliance selection, we actually, for some of our criteria for picking alliance members, one of them was that they had to be able to climb because there was such a high point value related to that. I think Colin can talk more about lining up for each match because he was our driver this season.
Yeah, being able to get that triple climb was a very big thing for us. We wanted to try and, maximize the number of points you could have, and climbing was such a big part of the game this year that we knew we needed to do it. But trying to kind of line that up is very difficult because you have so little space there to get 3 robots in and all without trying to, accidentally hit the other team. And it's a very difficult process, but actually pulling it off is very, very satisfying and very rewarding, obviously.
Yeah, I wonder if I'm sure that comes by design when they looked at how they were laying out this game. Achieving a full team climb on such a dynamic game piece or game structure has to be exciting and, like you said, very gratifying, very rewarding at the end. So that's awesome. Yeah, cool. So next question up is: can you elaborate more about what kind of autonomous modes we can expect to see from 2607 in the future?
So for our autonomous, one of the major things we were looking into this year was using vision tracking along with a kind of Pathfinder program. So I myself was personally working with the vision tracking side of things, and we were looking into trying to be able to not only be able to line up during autonomous for the high goal and shoot into the back, but also be able to pick up more balls after we shot the 3 that you begin with. And maybe Jacob could talk a little bit more about the exact autonomous processes we were going to go for there.
Yeah, because of quarantine, we were cut short on how much time we got to work on it. And basically our goal was to integrate, as Colin said, integrate a lot of the vision tracking into our autonomous, which would make a very precise way for shooting into the goal. We also wanted to pick up extra balls so that we could get that maximum point value for the autonomous mode. So that's definitely something we'll be working on.
Yeah, I know in a couple of our segments we sort of cover this idea of what are you going to do sort of up next, and I think this is going to be such a unique season regardless of team, your team, my team, everybody in chat's team, because when it's like, if we had one more week, we could have done this. Well, now we have a whole lot more weeks, and I'm so excited to see where teams make sort of like large scale advancements in their process. So speaking of process, our last question from the chat is actually a little bit more about the prototyping process, and it says, what is your preferred material or multiple materials for prototyping?
We tend to use a lot of wood when we prototype, a lot of scrap from previous years as well. Over the years, we just gained a lot of material, and we turn that into seeing whatever works, whatever we can do for this year. Or we also tend to use a lot of CAD and a lot of just making like a model beforehand before actually deciding what we're doing.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Rather than saying, there's a particular material that you prefer, it's really just whatever we got. And, there's no shame in reusing and recycling, scrap material or previously used material. So that's awesome.
My favorite one is signposts, the plastic type of signs that are in stores and that like prints the price on it. We've definitely done that. We're like, well, here's a bunch of signs the store was throwing out. Yes, that's prototyping plastic. So I guess we're going all the way back to Recycle Rush with that one. But yeah, use what you got.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that is going to be it for tonight. That's all the questions we have. So thank you to Team 2607, the Fighting Robo Vikings, for taking the time to talk with us tonight. We really appreciate you guys coming by.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having us.
Of course. And a huge thank you to our entire FMA Plus crew for making this happen. We couldn't have done this without the entire crew that's screening teams, interviewing, editing down the team features, as well as moderating chat here on YouTube, coordinating social media, and keeping you guys informed.
Yeah, we'll see everybody next Saturday for Libby. If I'm correct, this is going to be our coup de grace, right? Our final episode of FMA Plus.
Yes, it'll be our final team feature, followed by on the 27th, the first Mid-Atlantic Award ceremony with the Regional Chairman's Award and Don Bowers Inspiration Award. So you got 2 more weeks right here on this channel.
Awesome, everybody. Have a good evening.